Good afternoon. My name is Master Police Officer Christopher Schick. I'm a motor officer for the City of North Myrtle Beach Police Department. So we're here to talk to you guys today about motorcycle safety, and since May is Motorcycle Safety Month, or Motorcycle Awareness Month, it's a good opportunity for us to chat about some things. May is also the kickoff for the Grand Strand for our summertime, so with the weather getting better and people coming in town on vacation, we see an influx of motorcycles throughout the season, but specifically for the entire month of May between Harley Bike Week in early May and then into the Memorial Day Bike Fest, which happens over Memorial Day Bike Weekend. See anywhere from 20,000 to 75,000 motorcycles throughout the month. And our roads get inundated with things that people aren't familiar with. So it's a good opportunity to kind of talk about some stuff that might make it safer for you as a driver or safer as a motorcycle rider. So I'd like to start by talking to those of us that drive four wheels out here on the roads and how to interact or be safe when you're in an area that has a lot of motorcycles around it, like it's gonna for the whole month. One of the things with cars is we have to take into account visibility. So when you're driving down the road, it's pretty easy, especially during daytime hours, to see all the traffic around you. Cars, trucks, SUVs, tractor trailers. But when you start introducing motorcycles into that mix, a lot of times they aren't seen by the drivers. Probably the number one statement I've heard over my 19-year career as a law enforcement officer here in North Myrtle Beach. When there's a crash involving a motorcycle, more often than not, the driver tells me, I never saw the motorcycle. The biggest reason for that is smaller profile of the bikes, right? So when you're looking down the road and you see cars, they're easier to see. They're a much larger vehicle on the roadway. But when you're talking about a motorcycle, much smaller profile on the front, much shorter in length, they're just harder to see. It's kind of like, you ever looked at your watch before to see what time it is and then 30 seconds later you look again? Well, because the first time you looked at your watch, you didn't see it. You looked, but it didn't register in your brain. And a lot of times that's what happens with drivers, especially everybody's in a hurry today, and time's the most important commodity out there. Everybody's in a rush to get somewhere. They pull up to a stop sign, they look left and right, but they don't see. They never see the bike. And then they pull out in front and we have a crash. So on top of not seeing what we're looking at, the other reason people don't recognize motorcycles out on the road is because of that smaller profile, their headlights are compressed together. So even if motorcycles, some bikes have 2, 3, 4 headlights on the front of the bike, but because they're generally so compressed together, at a distance it looks like one big headlight. And the human eye has been scientifically proven, it determines depth off of multiple points. So think about when you're looking at a car, you got a headlight and about 3 or 4 feet on the other side you have another headlight. Well, on a motorcycle, all those headlights are compressed together, and at a distance it looks like one big headlight. Our eye has a difficult time determining how far away that vehicle truly is in comparison to what we think it is. So a lot of times people pull up to a stop sign, they look down the road. If they do see the motorcycle, their brain tells them it's further away than it actually is. And they pull out, and lo and behold, the bike's a lot closer than they anticipated, and we have a collision. It's kind of like the mirror on the side of your car. It says objects may be closer than they appear. It's the same concept. Always treat a motorcycle, if you see it, always treat it like it's closer than you think it is. Don't try to jet out in front of it because you think you have enough time. Stop and really take a good solid look to gauge how far away it is and how fast it's going. If you do that, you will literally save lives out there. All right, next thing I want to talk about is when you're driving your car, following distance. Right? In today's world, everybody's in a rush to get everywhere, and everybody follows the car in front of them, the truck in front of them, the motorcycle in front of them way too close. If you're of my age and generation and before, we were always told you should spend 1 car length per 10 miles an hour following distance. So if I'm running 50 miles an hour, I should be 5 car lengths behind the car in front of me. Well, think about your day-to-day driving. Most folks are following 1 or 2 car lengths back from the car in front of them at 40 or 50 miles an hour. Well, that affects our reaction time and our braking distance. And that's really, really important when you're following a motorcycle. In the newer generation, most kids today and in their 20s, the folks that are in their 20s, when they want a driver's ed or go through driver's school, they're told, follow 3 seconds behind the car in front of you. So when you're following behind a motorcycle, you want to make sure you're keeping that 3 seconds, or I think it's easier to keep that 1 car length per 10 miles an hour. That's easier for me to visualize when I drive. It's really important to do that with a motorcycle. And why is it so much more important on following a bike at a safe distance than a car? Not that it's not important to follow a car, but motorcycles are far more susceptible to problems in roads. So think like potholes and stuff. You're running down Highway 31 and there's a pothole in the road. You could try to avoid it on your car, and most people do, but if you see it at the last minute, you just drive through it. Or if there's a piece of plywood in the road or some other debris, in a car, 9 out of 10 times, you can travel over that debris and not have a problem. But a motorcycle doesn't have that luxury. Because we're on 2 wheels, we're susceptible to what's called a 2-wheel spill, or falling over, if you will. We have to go around those. So those operating motorcycles may have to get on the brakes to slow down enough to be able to avoid the object, or to shave speed off before they ride over it or through it. So giving us a little more room on the bikes by following a little bit further back makes it safer for us on a day-to-day travel, and makes you less likely to collide with a bike. So we've talked a little bit about driving a 4-wheel vehicle and driving it safely when you're around motorcycles, but I want to kind of direct some attention to how us as motorcycle operators can increase our safety out on the road. And by starting before you even get on the road, every day you ride your bike, you should be doing what we call T-clock, or a safety check on your vehicle. The most important part of that, in my experience and opinion, tire pressure, which is the T in T-clock. Your tire pressure needs to be Johnny on the spot, and whatever your manufacturer requires for the tires you're running. That is so more important on a motorcycle than it is in a car. Low tire pressure can cause braking issues. So when somebody pulls out in front of you, if your tire pressures are wrong, you may not be able to stop. And you surely don't want to stop by colliding into the car. It also affects control. So if you have to do an evasive maneuver, if your tire pressure is low or high, it can affect your ability to properly evade what's going on out there. And then thirdly, if you're riding a batwing style fairing like this, you've probably heard the term high-speed wobble or death wobble. These batwing fairings are notorious for having that. The leading cause for a high-speed wobble is low tire pressure. So doing that simple check every day before you leave can prevent one of the most hazardous problems out there of a death wobble, or if somebody, God forbid, pulls out in front of you having the proper tire pressure, literally might be the difference between you being able to stop before you collide with them or colliding with them to a stop. On top of that, under T-clock, your lights. So you need to check all your lights, right? We're hard enough to see as it is on 2 wheels on a smaller profile. Before you leave the house every day, crank the bike up and just take 30 seconds to walk around. Make sure your headlights and your turn signals are working. Make sure your tail lights and brake lights are working on the backside. If you got a light out, get it fixed. Be seen. That is the safest thing you can do out there. So make sure you're doing those T-clock checks before you get on the road to start off with. All right, now it wouldn't be a conversation from the police about safety if I didn't talk about safety gear. Now I know the greatest thing about living in South Carolina for many motorcycle riders is we don't require a helmet. And I'm in full support of that. That's what the law is. However, I will tell you that helmets save lives. I have never worked a crash where a helmet killed somebody. But I've worked many crashes where people have suffered significant injuries or have perished because they weren't wearing a helmet. And had they had a helmet on, it would have likely saved their life. So I would like to start by telling you safety gear. When you ride a motorcycle, think about the old saying, everybody that rides has heard it, dress for the slide, not for the ride. DOT approved helmet, half shell, modular, 3/4, full face, whatever suits your needs, but put a DOT at minimum approved helmet on your noggin when you ride. It'll save your life. You should be wearing some fashion of riding gloves. I know in the summer it's hot, wear a set of fingerless gloves. If you fall, and it's only a matter of time, everybody that's ridden a motorcycle's fallen down at a stop sign, a red light, or in the driveway, the first thing that hits the ground are your hands. So put on a set of leather gloves or good riding gloves, good neoprene riding gloves, so you can protect those palms when you go down. And over the ankle boots. One of the biggest injuries we see on motorcycles is broken ankles. And sometimes it's as simple as pulling up to the stop sign and there's sand on the ground, their foot washes out, and the bike falls on their leg. If you wear over the ankle boots, you're far, far less likely to suffer from a broken ankle. So we've covered all the pre-ride safety stuff like safety gear and checking out the bike on a T-clock, making sure all your equipment's good. Let's talk about how to ride safe out there. There's a lot of traffic. We're in a tourist town here, and there's a ton of people that don't know where they're going. Usually everybody's looking out the windows everywhere but at the road in front of them. So we can do things as riders to be safer while we're out operating on the streets. And one of the biggest things is speed. I know everybody likes to go fast, and motorcycles are real easy to do that, especially these new Harleys with the big motors. But speed is the leading cause of collisions in the US and fatalities. So be mindful of your speed when you're out there. That affects other people and their ability to judge how close you are when you're running at high speeds, especially in an area, say, that's got a 40-mile-an-hour zone and you're running 55. It's harder for people to realize that you're going that much faster because of the smaller profile. We talked about that earlier. So mind your speed when you're out there and drive cautiously. Following too closely. You got to keep your distance, right? So things happen in a split second out in front of you. You might have to evade, you might have to get on the brakes, you might have to change lanes, you might have to swerve around something in the road. Giving yourself that 1 car length per 10 miles an hour while you're riding will give you the ability to make the adjustments you need and safely navigate on the roadways. It also will allow people to see you easier. So when you're following a car going down a road and you're tailgating them, you're essentially hiding yourself from the other traffic because they can't see you behind that car. So a lot of times people are sitting waiting to make a left and they see the car in front of you coming, but because you're so close to that car, they never see you. And as that car starts to pass them, they begin their turn. Lo and behold, they've turned right out in front of you, or worse, turned into you. So giving yourself that 1 car length per 10 mile an hour will make you easier to be seen out on the road. So the last thing I'm going to talk to you a little bit about as a rider is riding styles when you're riding with other motorcycles. As everybody knows, it's more fun to ride a bike with other people, right? Most people enjoy riding in groups. And group riding's a great recreational activity, but you got to do it safe. The two most common styles of group riding are what's known as staggered, where one motorcycle's out in front, say on the left side of the lane, and another motorcycle's behind them on the right side of the lane, riding in a staggered pattern. There's a lot of benefits to that. It makes your profile larger as a group so other cars can see you out there. People are far less likely not to see the pack when you ride in that staggered position. It also allows the bike in front or the bike behind you to move left and right in their lane freely to avoid potholes, gravel, sand, debris, things of that nature. So staggered riding is a really good method of riding in a group. It's beneficial for you as the rider for safety reasons, and it's beneficial to the other traffic out on the road for visibility reasons. You're more likely to be seen. And then the other type of riding that's common for those that ride together often, a lot of folks that are comfortable with one another will ride in a side-by-side. So in other words, shoulder to shoulder on the motorcycles. And that's perfectly legal in South Carolina. Motorcycles are permitted to ride 2 abreast. You can't put 3 side-by-side in the lane, but you can do 2. Some of the benefits of that is when you ride side by side in traffic, you're less likely to fall victim to a blind spot in a mirror because one of the 2 bikes should always appear in somebody's side view mirror. And that's assuming they're not looking down at the cell phone and they're actually looking up at the road and looking at their mirrors. But riding side by side makes a wider profile, so you're less susceptible to blind spots in mirrors. That's another very successful way to ride in a group. But side by side takes a skill set and takes you being comfortable with the people you're riding with. So, you know, jumping into a group of folks you've never been with before, side by side's probably not the safest method for you. I would highly suggest you run in the staggered formation. and get the benefits of that formation. In 2016, North Myrtle Beach Police Department, in conjunction with the motor units, myself, Sergeant Ray Pollock, created a course for the public that we call the Motorcycle Collision Avoidance Training Class. The course is offered 4 or 5 times a year for free to the public. We offer it to 12 seats per class, and it's open to anybody that has a motorcycle endorsement or permit that can ride that bike to our course. It's 8 hours long, a little bit of classroom, and then we take you out and put you on a training pad where we introduce you to some of the courses that the police department has to do on our motorcycles to make you a safer rider. There's some collision avoidance training, there's some confined space movement, and then the meat and potatoes. The number one thing we push on this is proper braking on a motorcycle. We'll take you out on your bike, the bike that you ride all the time, and teach you how to stop it as fast as absolutely possible on that machine when an emergency happens. The number one thing that can save your life is being able to stop that bike when somebody doesn't see you and they pull out in front of you. And this course offers that. It's free of charge, and when you complete the class, we give you a certificate of completion that you can turn into your insurance company, and most insurance companies offer a reduction in rate for taking the course. We'll give you lunch and some awesome information when you attend the class. Our next course is in October, and we have a course in November. If you're interested in getting that, we'd love to have you attend the course. My contact information will be on this video. Give me an email or a call and we'll get you registered. So I'd like to take a minute to thank you guys for taking a couple minutes out of your day to watch our video and maybe learn something, whether you're driving a car or a motorcycle, that makes it safer for you or others out on the road. As I said in the beginning, May is Motorcycle Awareness Month. It's a kind of our kickoff here at the Grand Strand to our summertime, and it's a really, really busy season for motorcycles. With the 2 rallies that come up, we have the Harley Rally early in May, and then we have Atlantic Beach Bike Fest over Memorial Day weekend with a lot of bikes. And our ultimate goal here our ultimate goal here in North Myrtle Beach is for everybody to come into town, have a safe and exciting week, and then go home safe. So please ride and drive responsibly, sober, and safe, so everybody can enjoy their time here in the city.